families. Today we're going to be working on finding equivalent fractions using a visual model. Okay, the biggest thing you have to remember is in a visual model, you know that two fractions are equivalent if they take up the same amount of space in an equally sized whole. We're going to look at 3 different problems using that same concept, and we're going to use the strategy of visual models. Okay, first problem. Find a fraction equivalent to 1/2. Here's what I do. First, I'm going to draw 1/2. And let me shade it in. So here's 1/2. Now I need to show a fraction that takes up the same amount of space as 1/2. One of these strategies, I'm going to use a visual model. So I'm going to draw my visual model right below. I'm going to stack it. The reason why is that's going to make it really easy for me to make sure that the holes are the same exact size. So now I already made half, so let me think. How can I partition this into more smaller pieces, but it still takes up the same amount of space in halves? Let me see, let's break it up. Let me break up each side into maybe 3 equal parts. Okay, but let me make sure the same amount of space is shaded so I know they're equal, because they take up the same amount of space. So they take up the same amount of space in equally sized holes. Let me figure out what my new fraction is. Okay, so how many total parts do I have? That's my denominator. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 equal parts. How many are shaded in? 1, 2, 3. 3, 6. That means that 1/2 is equivalent to or equal to 3, 6. Okay. That's one way we can assess this. Another way is they might show something like this. So here we go. They have a hole, and it's already partitioned into 6. And the direction is to show 2/3. Okay. I need to show 2/3, but this is not partitioned into 2/3. It's partitioned into 6. What can I do? Well, I know I can make a visual model right below it and make it take up the same amount of space. So let me go under here. And let me make 3 equal pieces. And let me shade it to show 2/3. Okay, so now I showed 2/3 here, but I need to show 2/3 here. So let me make it take up the same amount of space. Okay, so I'm gonna make sure I shade it so it takes up the same amount of space. Thankfully I stacked it so it's easy to see. Okay, so then I see 2/3 is equivalent to 4 shaded parts. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 parts total. So that means 2/3 is equivalent or equal to 4/6. Here's another way they might assess it. They might say, fill in the box so the fractions are equal. Okay, so I see 2/4 has to be equal to some number of 8s. I know because the 8s is in the denominator. So let me draw 2/4. Half again. Shade in 2. Now right below, let me stack and show 8s. I'm going to use the related fractions, draw 1/4, then draw 1/2 again. And to figure out the blank, I need to think about, how many 8s do I need to shade in so it takes up the same amount of space as 2/4? So let me see. To take about the same amount of space, I need to color in this many, and that's 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 out of 8. So in this box goes 4, so I know 2/4 is equal to 4/8. These are 3 different ways that assess if your scholar knows how to find equivalent fractions using a visual model. The biggest thing to remember is 2 fractions are equivalent if they take up the same amount of space in equally sized wholes. We can make really strong visual models by making them the same size, stacking them on top of each other so they're easy to compare, and using our related fractions to make neat, even, equal partitions. Thank you so much. Please continue to work with your scholars. This is a big, big foundation of 3rd grade fractions. Bye-bye.